The contract with the outdated factory is cancelled. Manager John looks at us with disdain. So, all transactions with our company are terminated, correct? That's what I said. John laughs out loud, while James glares at him with intense hatred. Understood. Well, good luck with that. What? John tilts his head for a moment at my words, but quickly returns to his smirking face. Get out of here, you poor company's employees. Ignoring his words, James and I leave Wall Industries. What the hell have you done? You delivered the parts we supplied to our rival company, didn't you? As soon as I pick up the phone, I hear John's yelling voice. Stop the delivery to the rival company immediately and deliver to us. No. I cut off John's yelling with that response. You've got to be kidding. Whatever. I'll just have another company make the same parts. John's words leave me stunned. Does he not know? All the parts we supply to Wall Industries are patented. My name is Mike Williams, a 61-year-old company employee. I run a company that manufactures various equipment parts. Our main product is coils. Though they are just coils, they are used in a wide range of machines. So we handle thousands of different types of coils. This company was founded by my father, and I'm the second-generation owner. My father started this company right after graduating from high school. He wasn't particularly smart, but he was very proactive and well-liked. When my father wanted to start a company, the landlord of his part-time job site sold him the land at a very low price, and other wealthy individuals covered the capital. He was a natural charmer. My father married my mother young, but even after marriage, he couldn't stop his womanizing. People told my mother to endure it because men are like that. But my mother was much smarter than my father. Every time my father fooled around, my mother would break his beloved liquor bottles. Some of those bottles were quite expensive, but my mother mercilessly smashed them all. Once all the bottles were broken, she moved on to his watches, suits, and other valuables, discarding them one by one. At first, my father pretended to be tough. But when my mother sold his motorcycle without permission, he finally broke down and promised to stop fooling around. And he really did stop his womanizing. After that, my father immersed himself in work. You could say it was the only thing he had left to do. By the time I joined the company, my father had mellowed out and had become a well-respected, work-focused president. I worked with my father for 23 years until he retired at 74, and I took over the business. Our company has about 50 employees, all working in a large factory with an attached office. In the office, the development team designs coils daily, while the factory workers bring those designs to life. Employees freely move between the office and the factory, and it's not uncommon for designers to spend all day in the factory. I used to be involved in development and design, but in recent years, I've mostly been handling negotiations with clients. After becoming far-sighted, looking at design drawings became too difficult. So I stepped down from being a designer. Boss, I'm having trouble with this design. The voice belongs to James, the ace of the design department. At 45, James is relatively young, but produces excellent designs. I was able to step down from designing because of James's presence. No doubt about it. Still, sometimes James relies on me and asks for my help. I see indeed, it might be difficult with the materials we currently have. Our company receives design requests from various companies. James is currently struggling with designing a coil for a transformer used in industrial equipment. The expected usage exceeds the temperature limits of the materials we handle, making it impossible for us to produce. I'll take care of the materials, so James, please proceed with the design, assuming we'll get the necessary materials. Understood. After discussing this with James, we managed to get the materials and completed the design just in time. We then hurried to manufacture the product and delivered it on the deadline day. We just made it. James looked at me with genuine relief. For the past few days, all employees had been working towards this delivery. Although we usually set the delivery date with plenty of leeway, this time it was very close. We even considered informing the client about a potential delay. The client for this delivery has been a business partner for many years. However, I thought it would be best to apologize for the last-minute delivery, so I called the person in charge. The person in charge hadn't changed for years, and was someone I knew well. When they answered the phone, they cheerfully said, "As long as you met the deadline, don't worry about it." We were all relieved, but a few days later, we received an unbelievable phone call. James was the one who took the call. John from Wall Industries is extremely angry and demanding to speak to the boss. James seemed confused and baffled. Wall Industries is the company. We barely met the delivery deadline for the other day. Got it. Put him through. When I answered, I heard John's angry voice. Show some sincerity. Your lousy company is disrespecting ours. I had no idea what he was angry about, and I frowned. James looked at me with a worried expression. I'm sorry, but could you explain the situation in detail? I'm telling you, I'm pissed that your company disrespected us. How dare a shabby, nearly bankrupt company like yours deliver at the last minute? Finally, I understood why John was so angry. Even though we made the deadline, is it really something to get this angry about? I've already apologized to the person in charge about the deadline. I admit it was last minute, but originally, it was your side that. Telling some evil employee doesn't cut it. You should come to the company and apologize to me, the manager. This is why I don't want to deal with such an outdated company. Does John hold some grudge against our company? I've never met him in person. He's probably never even visited our company. With all due respect, we met the deadline, so I don't think you have the right to be this upset. John continues to insult our company. I finally lose my patience and retort, only to be shouted at even louder. How dare a small company talk back? Realizing this conversation was going nowhere, I sigh softly. Understood. I'll come with our representative to apologize. I decided it was a waste of time to argue further and agreed to apologize in person. The next day, James and I head to Wall Industries with a gift. James was unhappy about going to apologize. This is ridiculous. We met the deadline, and now the boss has to apologize. I understand James's frustration, but we've had a long-standing relationship with Wall Industries, and we need to maintain it. John was extremely angry. In this case, it's best to apologize if that would resolve the issue. When we arrived at Wall Industries, John was standing there with his arms crossed, waiting for us. His glare showed he was still very upset. My name is James Williams, the president. I deeply apologize for delivering on the day of the deadline. I said sorry, and James, albeit reluctantly, followed suit. James still seemed dissatisfied, his expression showing his reluctance. Is an apology really enough? What do you mean by that? I raised my head, frowning at John's words. For example, making this delivery free of charge. What? James couldn't contain himself and glared at John. Do you realize what you're saying? We may have cut it close, but we didn't miss the deadline. James was trembling with anger, and I was getting very anxious. But I understand how James feels. John's demands are completely unreasonable. What? Who are you? He's our top designer. He drew up the plans for this project. Have you seen the designs? They are quite impressive. Of course not. John's response only fueled James's anger. This is bad. James might actually take a swing at him. I admit, we barely made the deadline and I apologize for that. But isn't it unreasonable to demand we make it free of charge? I used a firm tone to calm James down. What? Who's being unreasonable here? John shouted, which only made James angrier. There seemed to be no solution in sight, and my head began to ache. Could you call the person in charge? I'd like to discuss this with them present. You're dissatisfied with me. How much more are you going to insult me? That's it. The contract with your outdated factory is cancelled. John looked at us with contempt. He clearly thought we would comply with his demands. So, you're saying you're cancelling all transactions with us? Yeah, that's right. How can you not understand how lucky you are to even do business with us? You should just listen to what I say. John looked triumphant, and I saw James clenching his fists. This situation was getting really bad. Without our business, your company will be in serious trouble, won't it? I heard your previous president was a fool who wasted money on women and had a huge debt. I always thought your company was a joke. It's true my father had a wild past, but that was a long time ago. Bringing it up now is absurd, and it feels terrible to hear my father insulted. Hey, you better watch your mouth. James was reaching the limit of his patience. So, you're confirming that all transactions with us are cancelled? That's what I've been saying. Can't you understand English? You're really hopeless. John laughed loudly, and James glared at him with the hatred of a sworn enemy. Understood? Well, good luck with that. What? John tilted his head for a moment at my words, but then his smirk returned. Get out of here, you employees of a poor company. Ignoring John's words, James and I left Wall Industries. Once we were outside, James's face was red with anger. I can't forgive that man, speaking to you like that, and even insulting your father. Thanks for being angry. It's okay. I feel the same way. I was also struggling to control my anger. It could easily have been me who lunged at John in that situation. We need to get back to the office. There's something I need you to do. I'll do anything. James seemed to understand that I was planning some form of retaliation. We quickly returned to the office. Once back, we immediately sprang into action. Everyone was united in their determination to bring John down for mocking our company and insulting my father. A month has passed since our visit to Wall Industries and John's decision to end our partnership. Thankfully, our company has been busier than ever. It's as if the incident with Wall Industries never happened. Just when everyone had almost forgotten about John. Boss, there's a call from John, James said, looking thoroughly displeased. The atmosphere in the office tensed up at the mention of Manager John. Put him through. I had anticipated this moment would come eventually. As soon as I picked up the phone, I heard a furious voice. What the hell have you done? Hearing his voice again made me sigh in exasperation. What do you mean? Don't play dumb. You delivered the parts we ordered to our rival company, didn't you? I couldn't help but smirk at Manager John's words. Oh, you finally noticed. But what of it? You said you wanted to cancel all transactions with us. We had to compensate for that loss somehow. So we supplied parts to a company that makes similar products. I could sense John losing his temper on the other end of the line. The employees around me, aware of what was happening, were grinning. Stop messing around. Stop the deliveries to our rival and supply us instead. We can't produce our products without your parts. Is that how you ask someone for something? Perhaps the parts we had already delivered had run out over this past month. Since we supply a large quantity of parts, we make deliveries once a month. So, your products couldn't be made without our parts, but you knew that and still decided to cancel our business relationship. Didn't you? I didn't know anything about that. If I did, why would I cancel the deal anyway? Just deliver the parts right away. I refuse. I replied defiantly to John's shouting. What did you say? I said, I refuse. What you've done to our company is unforgivable. And frankly, we don't need to supply you. Our current clients don't complain even when deliveries are on the brink. You're underestimating us. I heard a loud noise from the other end of the phone. It sounded like John was causing a scene, and I could hear female employees screaming. A rundown company like yours can beg elsewhere. We won't rely on your company anymore. Think about it. We can just get the same parts from another company. Haha. John's words left me dumbfounded. Could it be? He really doesn't know. All the parts we supplied to Wall Industries are patented. Never get involved with our company again. John spat out those words and abruptly hung up the phone. It's unbelievable that, despite holding a managerial position, he knows nothing about our own company's parts. How incompetent can he be? I was not just angry but also dumbfounded as I went back to my work. Several days after John's call, some visitors arrived at our company. It was John and Wall Industries president, Chris Brown. The office was in an uproar as the two of them showed up unannounced. What's going on? Even President Brown? President Brown and I have a good relationship due to our long-standing business dealings. We sometimes go out for drinks together. Mike, I'm truly sorry for what happened this time. Saying so, President Brown apologized deeply. President Brown is 1 year younger than me, but in terms of sensibility, we're almost the same age. President Brown's act of apologizing deeply left quite an impact on me. John, standing beside me, was also dumbfounded by President Brown's gesture. President Brown, please, stop this, please, lift your head. No, I won't lift my head until Mike says he'll resume our business dealings. True to his words, President Brown remained unfazed even as I attempted to stand up. His firm determination to protect his employees was palpable as a president. Come on, cut it out. Apologizing like this at a shabby company like ours will tarnish our reputation. Are you serious about that? President Brown looked at John in disbelief. I shared the same sense of disbelief. Doesn't he understand why he's here? Well, I understand what the president is trying to say. Since this company was making the parts for our products. But I've handled it properly. I've arranged for other companies to make the same parts. It cost us a bit, but we've made it our top priority. President Brown seemed astonished by this revelation, his eyes widening in disbelief. I was equally dumbfounded. I always knew he was odd, but never to this extent. What the hell have you done? President Brown stood up, grabbing John by the collar and going berserk. At this point, my feelings shifted more towards sympathy for President Brown than anger or frustration. Seeing President Brown with such employees seemed more pitiful than anyone else. President, were you even listening to me? This company doesn't need to do business with us anymore. Other companies can make the same parts. There's no way that's possible. The parts made by this company are all under patent. John stared at President Brown with a dumbfounded expression. Under patent, all parts made by this shabby company? That can't be true. John still seemed incredulous, laughing it off. However, upon seeing President Brown's and our serious expressions, he finally seemed to realize it was true. No way, seriously. Muttering this, John's face grew paler and paler. Even a shabby company like this can develop excellent parts. The machinery they use is top-notch, and above all, the designers are skilled. Saying this, I glanced briefly at James. I'm nothing special. It's President Mike who has brought this company to where it is today. My father was a hard-working man and had a natural talent for being liked by people. However, when it came to technical matters, he wasn't particularly outstanding. He started the company because people around him said, if you need money, I'll provide it. Or if you need land, I'll give it to you. And there wasn't any strong motivation behind it, just something he started on a whim. Still, whenever my father mentioned starting a company, skilled craftsmen who wanted to work alongside him flocked in. I've seen photos of my father when he was young, and he was incredibly handsome. He had the looks of a celebrity, and his personality was equally charming. While he was known for his love life, his good-hearted nature overshadowed it all. Many skilled employees gathered at my father's company, and it quickly rose to become a mid-sized coil parts company. It seems the idea to make coils came from one of the employees. There was a highly skilled employee who pointed out that coils are in demand in every machine. Yet there aren't many companies making them. However, even though our company had skilled craftsmen, we lacked skilled designers. As a result, our company remained stuck at the mid-sized level. Until I joined. President Mike studied engineering at a national university before joining this company, and he had presented at numerous academic conferences. Many prestigious companies were trying to scout President Mike from the university. But President Mike studied engineering for the sake of this company. What this company lacked became apparent to me when I was in junior high school. Originally, our company outsourced the design, and the craftsmen would make the parts. I used to visit this factory since I was little, and the craftsmen there always complained. There's no satisfaction in making such simple parts. No matter how skilled the craftsmen were, they couldn't make parts without design blueprints. Designing and actually making the parts require completely different skills. There were no craftsmen who could draw design blueprints. The reason our craftsmen didn't leave despite the unfulfilling work was because of my father's influence. When I asked if they wanted to work for other companies, they all said, even if this company goes bankrupt, we'll never leave the president for the sake of these people who admired my father so much. I decided to become the designer for this company. President attended Mike the top local high school and then entered a national engineering university. He didn't go to graduate school because there was no need to. I wanted the credentials of having graduated from this university. In this industry, education and titles are highly valued. Also, when I was a sophomore, I was already immersed in designing parts in the lab with graduate students. It was normal for me to spend all day and night in the lab, and before academic conferences, I practically lived in the lab overnight. While my friends of the same age were enjoying parties and dating, I was solely focused on acquiring as much knowledge, skills, and connections from university as possible. The coil I designed for my graduation project became the flagship coil for our company. You should have been distributing it too. Yeah, it's used in almost all of our products. It won the Best Industrial Component Award in a globally renowned industrial parts competition, right? Mr. Brown said with a weak smile. Mike's presence is so renowned in this industry that he's practically synonymous with domestically produced coils. And yet, what have you done? Mr. Brown hangs his head, distressed. Well, originally, it was because this company consistently delivered products right up to the deadline. Even if it's last minute, as long as it's delivered, there shouldn't be any problem. Mr. Brown snaps angrily at Mr. John. That's the thing. Normally, we set the delivery deadline a week in advance. But this time, a week before the deadline, we received an email. It mentioned that our parts would be used in an extremely high-temperature environment. That detail wasn't mentioned in the initial request at all. Is that so? Mr. Brown seemed surprised, indicating he wasn't aware of this fact. Yes, and furthermore, it was for usage in an environment with such high temperatures that our existing materials couldn't handle. So, we started urgently searching for materials from a week before the deadline. We managed to secure them just 2 days before the deadline. And that's when we began manufacturing the parts, resulting in delivery on the day of the deadline. Why would something like that? As Mr. Brown murmurs, Mr. John's eyes wander. You know the reason for that, Mr. John? What are you talking about? Mr. John sweats profusely. I asked the person in charge. Apparently, when they initially sent the email requesting work from us, there was no specification regarding the operating temperature. But shortly after that, it was decided that our parts would be used in a high-temperature environment. It was around the same time that the person in charge fell ill. And the arrangement was for you, Mr. John, to handle any additional requests. Isn't that right? The day John called our office, I immediately contacted the person in charge. I asked why they hadn't mentioned the temperature issue in the initial request. If they had, we could have delivered much sooner. But the person in charge claimed they knew nothing about the temperature requirement. And when asked about the email sent a week before the deadline, they said they didn't remember. Upon investigation by the person in charge, the truth of the matter came to light. You were blaming our company, even though you forgot to inform us. Mr. Brown, who had been listening to me, trembles with anger. Well, it was still a week before the deadline, so it's fine, right? We made it by the deadline. How can you say it's fine just because it met the deadline? All of us, including me, are speechless with disbelief. Insane! Apologize to Mike and the employees immediately. Mr. Brown yells at John, his face turning red. Why should I do something like that? Why wouldn't it be? You didn't own up to your mistake, yet you made unreasonable demands to Mike and the others. And still, they managed to meet the deadline for you. How can you act like this? Mr. Brown expressed everything we wanted to say. Everyone nodded repeatedly in agreement. And to think, you've been outsourcing our company's parts to other firms. Those designs are unique to Mike, so it's impossible for them to replicate them, yet you're paying them substantial amounts. Mr. Brown's face turns pale as he looks up to the sky. Other companies are investing time, money, and labor to replicate our parts. But those parts will never be completed, and even if they were, they can't be used due to patent issues. However, the money John already paid won't come back. In other words, Mr. Brown's company will be burdened with substantial debt. You're fired effective immediately. Furthermore, we'll proceed with legal action to recover the full amount you paid to John. What? Despair washes over John's face at Mr. Brown's words. There's no way I can pay that. Find a way. Borrow money. Do whatever it takes. Also, be prepared because we'll seek compensation for the damages. During the period when our products couldn't be manufactured due to the absence of Mike's parts, with a cold tone, Mr. Brown declares, and John collapses to his knees. He collapsed on the floor, sobbing uncontrollably, trying to play the victim. But it's all John's fault, and what Mr. Brown is saying is fair. Mike, I apologize deeply for showing you such an embarrassing sight. Please allow me to bring the responsible party to apologize properly another day. Mr. Brown apologized deeply and forcibly lifted John, who was crying, to his feet. Then, half dragging John, he left the company. After that, John, who was fired from the company, was demanded to pay a substantial amount in damages. The amount was something he couldn't possibly afford personally. In an instant, John found himself burdened with a huge debt, and his wife, fed up, left him. All his assets, including his home and car, were taken by his wife, and John ended up living alone in a run-down apartment. Even if he wanted to find a new job, his reputation in the industry had been tarnished, and no company was willing to hire him. Now it seems he works as a part-time employee to a fast food chain from morning till night. But with that income, he can't afford to pay the damages. Eventually, he had to resort to borrowing from consumer finance companies. John must be living in fear of debt collectors every day, enduring hellish days. As for me, I resumed business with Mr. Brown's company right after that. Because Mr. Brown came to our company again the next day, shouting, "I won't leave until you agree to resume business," while prostrating himself so vigorously that his forehead rubbed raw. I'm not heartless enough to be unmoved by such an apology. Besides, Mr. Brown's handling of the John incident this time was impeccable. They even asked me to pay overtime allowances for the employees who worked overtime to meet the deadline, which made me chuckle. Actually, Mr. Brown's father was originally a craftsman who worked with my father at our company. He was deeply impressed by my father's personality and dedicated his life to our company. I also worked with him for a while, and he was indeed an excellent craftsman, like my father's right-hand man. Mike, if my father finds out that the business with your company is over, he might be so shocked that he'll pass away," Mr. Brown said with a serious expression. I also know Mr. Brown's father well, and indeed, he would probably go berserk and rampage if he found out. However, I had intended to resume business with Mr. Brown's company as soon as he fired Mr. John. Without our components, Mr. Brown's company would undoubtedly go bankrupt. That's not what I want, and my father would be furious. From now on, Mr. Brown and I will continue to strive together in our roles of protecting the same company.